In this video, we're going to have a look at letter equations. In a letter equation, there's more than one variable or letter. These equations are often used in science and technology and can also be called formulas. The letter that is on its own in such an equation is called the subject of the formula. The subject of a formula can be changed. At the moment, V is the subject of this formula. I can ask you, for example, to make T the subject of the formula. This means that T is now our variable and all the other letters can be dealt with as if they are constants. So to make T the subject of the formula, we need to solve T or get it alone on one side. And to do that, we are still going to follow the basic principles of solving equations. To get rid of a specific value, we need to do the inverse calculation on both sides of the equation. Firstly, I want to get rid of the u, and to do that, I'm going to subtract u on both sides. If I subtract u on the right, I'm left with at. Now I want to get rid of a, and a is multiplied to t. So to get rid of a, I'm going to divide everything on the left-hand side by a. Now we have t alone, so we've made t the subject of the formula. Example 2. Solve c. This implies again that we need to make c the subject of the formula. This is the formula to convert between degrees in Celsius and Fahrenheit. As the formula is now, you can immediately substitute degrees in Celsius to determine the degrees Fahrenheit. If you, however, want to determine the degrees in Celsius, it is easier if C is then the formula's subject. So let's get C on its own. Firstly, I'm going to get rid of the plus 32 by subtracting 32 on the left-hand side. Next, it is your choice whether you want to do the 9/5 as a whole or two separate parts. You can choose to first get rid of the divided by 5 by multiplying by 5 on the left-hand side. So everything on the left is multiplied by 5. On the right, we have 9c. To get rid of the multiplied by 9, I'm now going to divide by 9 on the left-hand side. So everything on the left is divided by 9. You could have also chosen to get rid of the 9/5 as a whole by multiplying with its reciprocal on the left. So the f minus 32 can be multiplied by 5/9. If you are now, for example, given that it is 100 degrees Fahrenheit, you can immediately substitute this into the new formula and change it to 100 minus 32 in the bracket, and that will give you degrees Celsius of 37,78. Example 3. The formula for the volume of a cylinder is given. Make R the subject of the formula. Firstly, I want to get rid of the pi and the height on the right-hand side. Both of these are multiplied to r squared. So to get r squared on its own, I'm going to take the left-hand side and divide by pi as well as by h. Next, we want to get rid of the square. The inverse calculation of a square is a square root. So the whole left-hand side will be put inside a square root. Usually, when you add your own square root to an equation, you will add plus or minus. But in this case, this is not necessary because we know that any radius is positive. Example 4. Solve x. Here you can see that x occurs in two of the terms in the equation. So let's say that you decided to solve the x on the right-hand side. To do that, you would have to divide the whole left-hand side by 3c. The problem with this is that x is still not the subject of the formula because we still have an x on each side of the equation. So if the letter that you want to make the subject occurs in more than one term, you will have to factorize to ensure that you have all the x's in one term. So firstly, I'm going to get all the x terms on one side by subtracting ax on both sides of the equation. Next, I can take out x as a common factor, and then I will be left with 3c in my first term and minus a in my second term. To get x alone on the right hand side, I need to get rid of the bracket which is multiplied to x. That means I'm going to take the left hand side and divide by that whole bracket. Here we now have x alone on the one side, which means I've solved x.